Hey guys, Dennis here.
Chrissy.
Dan.
Dan. Here.
And
Present.
Alex will be joining us likely here shortly.
Mm-hmm.
And tonight we do have a special guest coming on. We have Amber, who is Rachel Conger's daughter.
Mm-hmm. Very nice lady, guys.
Yeah.
So guys,
All right.
we will go ahead and bring Amber in and we will get started. Amber, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
And we want to give you a chance to kind of give us a general rundown on the case.
Okay. So I guess where I'm at right now, I've done a lot of work with Still Watch. It's a private investigator group that Discovery ended up bringing in when I did the Discovery show Secrets, Lies, and Private Eyes. So I think they were planning on doing something later this year as far as another search. And a few months ago, back in October, we did a search as well and kind of pinpointed a few different areas that were, I guess, areas to be looked at, things like that, somewhere they'd like to take just a second look at, third look at, and see, because it was areas where he was working, doing construction work and stuff like that, my stepfather. Other than that, I'm doing the podcast with you guys, and I did the Mike Weatherford show. So really just trying to keep the momentum going, and not give up on any avenue that may lead to answers for not only me, but for my grandmother and my family and everyone involved.
That's right.
And real quick, Alex is here now. Alex, this is Amber.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Alex, you're muted.
We can't hear you.
How about now?
There we go.
Sorry, I didn't mean it. Nice to meet you, Amber.
It's nice to meet you as well.
And Tammy's right here on the side of me.
Hi, Tammy.
Hi.
We still have family here and stuff at the moment. So
All right, let's go down here. Jessie Lynn. Hi, honey. She says, I love you, Amber. Mac.
Yeah.
Hey, she says, hello, Jess. Hey, girl. Joanne. Bobby. Hey, guys.
Hey, love you guys. Thanks for tuning in.
So we had that Rachel went missing March 13th of 2008. Was that the correct date?
Yes, that's the correct date.
And from Paris, Tennessee?
Yes.
Do you want to try and give us a rundown about how that all happened, honey?
So I know we had growing up, my stepdad had been very abusive in the past, and it kind of got to the point where my mom had the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. And we had moved out and we're kind of trying to just start over. And we'd moved to a little house in Como for 2 to 3, it'd been 2 or 3 weeks or so. And we were still trying to get some of our stuff from the house. It's the house that we'd lived in for 10 years or so. But Paul also had some mental instabilities as far as when he wasn't on his medication. His bipolar disorder would definitely flare up, and it was kind of a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde situation. And he had been not taking his medication and was kind of, I guess, refusing to let us get some of our stuff and move things over to the new house, and was threatening my mom with hurting me and hurting her if he was not a part of our lives anymore. So that day, he was helping her move some stuff and things like that. The day before, on the 12th, and I had just started spring break. So I don't know. I guess I kind of tried to stay out of it. You know, I didn't really have anything nice to say, so I didn't want to say anything at all to him. And later that evening, I had been over at a friend's house in walking distance from our new house, and my mom had I'd called her and I was like, and he had ended up answering the phone. Hey, can I have your mom for the night? We have some things to talk about. And I'm like, no, I want my mom. Like, you need to come get me. And from there, they came and picked me up, and we went to the house in Como, Tennessee, which is 20 minutes from Paris, maybe, I would say. And as far as that evening, we went to the new house that we were living in, and my mom kind of pulled me aside because Paul left to go take a shower and I guess come back and get ready. And she said, you know, he's off his medication. He's threatening to burn the house down with us in it if I don't let him stay here tonight. So I'm going to just try and keep the peace. And she was borrowing a truck from one of her friends to move stuff back and forth because she had a car. So I guess he wasn't too pleased with her using somebody's truck, things like that. And he went to his house, and I ended up walking across the street to get like my phone charger that was at my friend's house. And I saw him over like kind of at this post office, I would say. And I walked in and I thought it was weird. And my mom said, oh no, he wrecked Doug's truck. That's what he said. I'm like, no, I just saw him outside and he came in and acted like it was a joke. So, you know, me being 13 and, you know, a 13-year-old, I'm like, well, I'm just going to go to bed. So I told my mom I loved her and kind of ignored him, and I went to sleep. And the next morning when I woke up, there was nobody there. And I was old enough to be like by myself, and it was spring break. And so I knew we had plans. I was going to go to Clarksville with her, and we were going to stay at one of her girlfriend's houses and kind of go to the mall, you know, do some fun stuff later that week. And it was weird of her, I guess, one, not to leave a note, two, not to have sent me a message or something saying she wasn't going to be there, because that wasn't our original plan. And the back door was open. And I don't know if, I'm sure you guys know I'm talking about that feeling of something's just wrong.
Yep.
So as the day kind of progressed and things like that, I tried to call her. I tried to call Paul. I tried to call quite a few different people. And nobody had seen her. Nobody had heard from her. So I guess it was around 4:00 that evening. My friend's mom took me to the police station because I wasn't old enough to make a police report yet. She made the report on my behalf. And I believe one of my mom's friends that we were supposed to be going to stay with later that day had also filed a police report as well, from what I understand. And kind of, I guess, as it progressed over the next few days, you know, I won't pretend it wasn't a little foggy, I guess, for me, you know, being young, something traumatic happening. But I know they found him, I think it was a Thursday or a Friday that day fell on. And I know they found him they found like Saturday, I think it was. They found the truck that they had been in with my mom's things still in it, like her purse and medication and her cell phone. And then they found the keys he had thrown in the woods for the truck. And the driver's door was open, but the passenger door was locked. And then the next morning, they found him dead of a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
Goodness. Wow.
I guess.
So
I
did
yeah.
I was curious. So you did clear that up. So Paul was your stepfather.
Yes.
Okay. That was one of the things that when I watched the Mike Weatherford show that you were on and Paul's brother was on and stuff. And I don't know if I just didn't catch it, but I did not know if Paul was your father or if he was your stepfather. So I'm glad you cleared that up. And then I was curious of your age how old you were when all this happened and stuff. So you cleared that up too. So those were two questions I had on my list.
She
So
answered one of mine too.
So thank you so much.
Yeah, no, definitely. Any clarity I can put forward, I'm more than happy to.
Now, have they done cadaver dog searches?
As far as I know, yes. I know the police did some searching with cadaver dogs, as well as there were a few police searches and one very large volunteer search shortly after finding Paul's body. And then I did a bunch of fundraisers and things, and I actually brought in 2 different search and rescue teams. I don't know, maybe 6 to 8 months after the initial searches. I could be wrong on the timeline, but I think it was probably within 6 to 8 months after. I brought in Q Center, and they did cadaver dog searching, as well as I can't recall the name, but it was a search and rescue team out of Texas, I believe.
EquiSearch?
Yes, EquiSearch.
That's a good team.
Yes.
And Billy Moore says, where did they find him? Where did they find him again?
So they found him. It was kind of in a field line. So if you guys are familiar, I'm sure, with cornfields, stuff like that, where the tree line meets the cornfields.
Mm-hmm.
They found him in an area near there. From the vantage, I would say he had a good vantage point from there to kind of see how things were unfolding. With the, a sight on a gun or a binocular kind of deal, you would have been able to see what was going on from kind of where he was.
Now, is that where they focused the searches on, is where they found him or the truck?
Yes, that is kind of the area where they found the truck and him were fairly close to his home as well. And a lot of the searches were focused around there. But he was a construction worker, and he also, I guess there was a ping on a cell phone tower in Swan Bay area, which is Kentucky Lake. And they did a lot of searching around that area as well.
Jen asks, when they were spotted on surveillance at 8:07 a.m., do you know which direction they were headed?
As far as from the police reports I've read and the records that I have, they were headed towards Clarksville. I guess the plan kind of was to take back the truck that was being borrowed. And she, again, trying to keep the peace, because from what I understand, a witness saw them leaving the home and her running towards the truck and kind of banging on the window to get in. So I think it was kind of a rushed leaving, like
Right.
maybe he was angry or upset and she's trying to defuse the situation.
So can I ask you a question then? So how long was Paul, and forgive me if I'm asking this, but how long was Paul in your life and your mother's life? I mean, how long were they married together? I mean, how long was he in your life, basically? And I mean, was he always the way he was, or was there good times at all, or was it?
I mean, I can't say that all of it was bad, I think they got together when I was probably 1 or 2 and got married when I was around 3 years old. So he was in my life for 10 plus years, as a father figure to me. And, I was very grateful. All of my family always got along, as far as, my dad, my mom, and my stepfather. Like, there was always a good relationship there. And yes, Paul was always like that. When he was on medication, he was a lot more regular, but with the high highs and the low lows, some of those highs weren't him being angry. Sometimes it was, we went on awesome trips and stuff like that, so I can't say it was all bad. It was very much a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde situation.
Tamara. Hi, Tamara. Tamara asks, what time did they leave the house?
if I recall from the reports, not having it right in front of me, the neighbor said something along the lines of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was on. So that was sometime between 7 and 8 in the morning.
Yep.
So the truck that was found with the driver's door open and the passenger door shut and locked, was that Doug's truck or was that Paul's truck?
That was Doug's
Yes,
truck.
was Doug's truck.
Mhm.
Now, was Doug just a friend of your mother's, or is this someone that she had started seeing?
No, they were not
And
each other. It was a friend of her and Paul's. They used to do a lot of motorcycle events and stuff like that, and I believe that's where all of them met originally. But I think it kind of turned into him being more of my mom's friend, someone trying to help her out of a bad situation, but no romantic involvement.
I was just trying to see if there was a maybe what put Paul over the top that night or that next morning, whatever happened, with this person's truck, if it was just a friend, a mutual friend, which sounds like it was a mutual friend that in the end it became more of your mom's friend than it was Paul's. So
Yeah, no, I definitely think that was the case. I guess, my mom was officially done with everything, so I can't, being 13, your mom's not going to tell you if she's seeing someone new, something like that.
yeah,
But I know the phone call that she received that bounced off the Swan Bay Tower was from someone I guess she was friends with and in contact with and talking to. I mean, for all I know, they could have went on a date or two, or it could have just been the beginning stages, talking, getting to know somebody. And that was a friend that had called her then, and Paul had answered the phone.
Jen had a question for you. Is it true that your mom had a metal implant in her jaw? If so, have searchers utilized metal detectors on searches?
Yes, that is true. She had TMJ. And so when I was much younger, she'd had a surgery, and they took a metal plate and put it in both sides of her jaws. So yes, that is true. Metal detectors were used in done with the Discovery Channel. So Still Watch had brought someone in and used metal detectors in certain areas.
Goodness. Wow. Go ahead.
Now, was he the jealous type, controlling?
Very much so. I mean, I guess he was older than her, so I guess it was kind of like his trophy, so to speak, in some ways. My mom was a beautiful woman, and he was an older man, and he would get very, very jealous. But also in the same aspect, he liked to show her off.
Yeah.
So it could be a double-sided sword with that.
Goodness. Man.
And he definitely, you hear about it on TV and stuff like that. Someone that's abusive. He would stalk her, when we left, even if it was for a few weeks, whatever the case may be, throughout my childhood. He would always find her. It didn't matter where she went. He would come and find her.
Wow.
Billy says Como is not far from, I hope I'm saying this right, Hyco. There is several old clay pits in that area that is like big ponds.
I won't say I'm familiar with Hyco. I know that there were some like smaller ponds and bodies of water that were searched near Briar Patch Lake Road, because according to the timeline, and again, both are vast areas, and of course, there's always a chance that maybe the timeline's wrong or whatever the case may be, but I know Briar Patch Lake Road area and Land Between the Lakes are the two most searched areas, just due to the timing that he would have had to do everything.
Gosh, wow.
See, initially, those would have been the areas of interest for me as well.
Right. Wow.
So I have another question for you. So my wife is from Tennessee.
Yeah.
She is originally from Knoxville. So how far is, and forgive me, I haven't even looked this up, but how far is Paris from Knoxville? Because I honestly don't know.
Maybe, I think. I'm not 100% familiar. I haven't spent a lot of time in the Knoxville area.
Okay. I'm sorry. I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I said, I think it's 4 to 6 hours, if I'm not mistaken. I just haven't spent a lot of time in that area.
Okay. Okay.
If it helps, it's about 2 hours from Nashville, roughly.
That's good.
Okay.
Okay.
France.
So I
Yeah,
have
it's
another
4
question.
hours and 26 minutes,
Right.
Alex.
Okay. I was just curious. We go to Knoxville, we go to Tennessee, once or twice a year and stuff. And my sister-in-law still lives. She lives in Russellville area, which she is only 30 minutes from where the little girl Summer Wells
Mm-hmm.
is. That case in Tennessee, she lives just 30 minutes away from that area. So I was just curious, where, I usually look up all the details of every case, especially if it's something close to, something in relevance to, myself or the group. But so like I had mentioned, I had watched the Mike Weatherford show, and I'm curious as to what your thoughts are on the psychic that was on the show, and basically her thoughts that your mother, she was describing like white metal objects or some white objects. And I know all over, they do wrap hay bales in white, protective plastic. There's salvage yards that do appliances and stuff. So what was your thoughts on what that particular lady said? And did the sheriff, was he the current sheriff or was he the past sheriff when all this happened? I didn't quite catch that part.
He was the past sheriff.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just curious, have they moved on that information at all? And what was your thoughts on it? How did you feel when that lady described all that?
I mean, not to discredit it at all, of course. But there are a lot of different interpretations of how that could be. Like you said, hay bales. As far as when we did the search back in October, there in the Swan Bay area, there is a place that does, I guess they salvage certain things like washers and dryers that are big white metal objects. That was very near the area that he was working on at the time. But also, if you think about Briar Patch Lake Road area, there's a lot of big white hay bales, like you were saying over there. So I think that could definitely be ambiguous, for lack of a better way to put it, just because that doesn't really narrow down, in my opinion, the area, just due to it there being so many different ways it could be interpreted.
Okay.
Uh-huh. It's all right. I can't even interpret. It's all right. We got it.
New construction sites, they use white Tyvek.
Yeah.
The water
interpreted.
The way, if I remember, I just watched this a few days ago. It seemed like the lady, her interpretation of what she had seen was Paul had either picked something up or moved it and had placed your mother's, remains behind it and covered it up, so she couldn't be seen. Mm-hmm. And that's what, in my mind, I'm thinking, the average hay bale, the average person really can't push it around and move it because, I mean, we do hay, we have cattle and horses, and we do our own hay, and I know how much they weigh. So I was just curious if anybody had acted out on that information and had, done any more searches or anything and had, if they had found areas and now they've been marked off that, hey, there is big white objects here, there is stuff that's painted white, or it is white in color, and we have searched, we have looked in, around, underneath, and we have came up with nothing. I just didn't know if there had been any follow-ups since that episode had been taped and played.
No, as of right now, there is no follow-ups there. I think there are plans in the works to have follow-up done later in the areas that we went to the last time, just to be able to eliminate that due to it being so close to where the cell phone ping was. It was where he was working at. He knew the area very well. So I think there are plans for later this year to go and search that area more thoroughly.
And then one more follow-up off that, and I'm sorry.
No, fine.
How did you feel and what was your thoughts when that psychic lady had mentioned a third person possibly being involved? And that whole situation with, was it somebody that Paul knew, or was it somebody that your mom knew that could have been there? Because that lady, I mean, she did talk about it for a few minutes when she was discussing it. So I was curious if, and I'm not sure if, the other members had seen that show or not. Because I did go through on YouTube and search your mother's stuff, and there's only a handful of YouTube videos about your mother's stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And, I usually go and track everything down. And, when we, like your show, I put it on there that we were going to be discussing the case. And if those people wanted to jump on and be a part of it, but, so I'm just curious as how you felt or you interpreted what she discussed in that part.
I mean, at the end of the day, in my heart of hearts, yes, I feel like Paul was the type of person, if I can't have you, no one will.
And he made that known, did he not?
Very much so. Very much so. And there have been multiple times throughout my childhood where I feared for not only her safety, but my own as well. So as far as someone else being involved, I mean, it's not like it was to an extent, was it a secret? Yes. I knew from a very young age not to tell people about it, but there were a lot of people that knew exactly how he was and exactly the situation going on. So do I think that it could be a possibility that someone helped in any way? Yes, but I guess I don't know a good way to put it. Of course it's a possibility. Absolutely. I mean, from either side, I don't.
Yeah. At any given time, had the police or investigators, had anybody ever brought that up, or was this the first time that this had ever been discussed when this psychic brought it up on the Mike Weatherford show?
It's the first time it had been ever discussed with me personally. I can't say what theories may or may not have been out there behind, closed doors with police officers, whatever the case may be. Of course, then there's the public speculation where people have always said things about maybe someone else was involved just because of the short timeline. The ins and outs of it, the what ifs, of course. I feel like personally, it would have been a very personal situation for him. Very much he would want to take care of it on his own and not involve someone else, only because if I can't have her, no one else will. And if I'm going to be the one to take her out of this world, no one's going to find her.
Yeah.
But do I rule it out as a possibility? No.
Okay.
Jen had a really good question here. What was Doug's profession? The reason I ask is because I'm wondering what type of tools may have been in the truck at the time, or do you know for certain what Doug had in his truck at the time?
I really couldn't tell you that. From what I understand, he was a pretty meticulous person as far as didn't keep a lot of things in the truck. I believe he ran a salvage junkyard type place on the other side of Clarksville, Nashville area. But from what I understand, he really didn't keep a whole lot of stuff in his vehicle. So I don't think there would have been any tools or anything in there, at least nothing on the case reports and police files that I recall them noting that was found in the vehicle.
Now, were any of the construction sites pre-concrete?
I'm not sure. I know as far as his bulldozer, they looked into a construction site that his bulldozer was at, but it doesn't fit into the timeline whatsoever.
Okay.
Like the distance it would be away would just be unable to fit into the timeline of events.
Now, I want to give a heads up. We've got Felicia Henderson on right now, and I believe that Paul is her uncle.
Yes.
Okay. She's made quite a few comments here, but the last one she made, he wouldn't even speak to his brother Richard, my father. When he seen him for the short second when all this was happening. So I don't think he would have allowed anyone else to be involved.
And again, that goes back to me thinking he would have wanted this to be personal, because it's not like my mom wasn't well loved. She was a very, very outgoing person, very loving, very helpful. So she was well loved with his family and anybody she knew. So I go back to thinking that Paul would just want like the narcissistic point of view on this, like if I'm going to be the one to take her out of here, no one's going to be able to find her because I get to have her forever.
Right. She made quite a few comments here. I'm going to actually go back a little bit here and find more of her.
Dennis, you and Chrissy are, I don't know if anybody else is seeing this, but you all are freezing up pretty bad. Your signal.
All right, let's see what we got here.
I don't know if anybody else is noticing that, but you guys are all.
Are we still doing it?
You were doing it just literally just right before you started talking.
Oh, goodness. Because every now and then I see what do you call it? The Wi-Fi signal's kind of jumpy.
See, you all are frozen right now.
All right.
Now, did they keep his firearm that he took his own life with?
As far as I know, yes. I think that one of his family members can shine a little bit more light on that. If it was given to his mom or dad or something like that. But as far as I know, they did keep it.
Okay.
Joanne says, my theory is that when he answered her phone and it was another guy, he snapped and possibly choked her to death. But then when he realized what he had done, he hit her body.
Again, there's two theories that I personally go back and forth with a lot. What Joanne says is on kilter with a theory that I have of he snapped, maybe he didn't necessarily mean to. But then when it happened, he was like, oh my gosh, what did I do? I just did this.
Yep.
But then of course there's the opposite side of that coin where he knew she was done for good. And, if you look at abuse, domestic violence, the most the worst time is when you leave for good. That is the time where you are your absolute most vulnerable. So did he realize she was done for good this time and plan to do something? Maybe not like a tight plan, but if something were to happen, this is where I would hide her. This is what I would do, because he did have enough time to go home and change from the outfit I last saw him in. Because due to the police reports, things like that, he was in different clothes than what I last saw him in. So he had that kind of time. So was he thinking, oh, I'm going to hide her body and go like mountain man it for a while in the woods or something, or what the case may be? So I do think that there are two different sides to where that could have been. Was it a snap, or was it, hey, I know she's finally done with this and now I'm going to take action?
I just thought of something kind of odd, and it's an odd thought that I just had as you're discussing this. Did Paul have any children?
Yes.
Okay. I was going to say, because were they divorced when all this happened, or just separated?
As far as Paul and my mom?
Yes.
They were just separated at this time.
Okay. I was going to say, because if he had his place still and he didn't have any children, my thought was, at that point when all this happened, did you have access to go to his place and go through his belonging, because you were his stepchild by marriage still, so you still had a legal right, because he was your stepfather, for you to deal with his stuff. And that's why I asked if you had any stepbrothers or sisters and how all that had played out at that point, because if they weren't divorced at that time, then you still would have had a legal right basically to his belongings. And if you did do anything and look for anything, I guess.
Of course his daughters were older than I am. And they lived in another state. So I believe his family took charge of going through anything that was left there, or the state that it may have been in. So I didn't have too much involvement in that, nor did I have much opportunity to go through even things I would have wanted to keep that were there of my mother's. So
I was going to say, because I think from one of your previous comments, you had still made a comment that he was not letting your mother take some of your all's belongings out of that place. So I was just curious, how that had played out.
yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff that was at our houses and stuff like that, not my family, but my mother's family and my biological father, we kind of went through our house in Como and took care of that situation, as far as her stuff there, my stuff there, and did what we needed to do. But going to his house and going through everything else just wasn't something that was, I guess, a forefront in my mind. I did go over there and I had the opportunity to grab a few things. But for the most part, it was more of a kind of in shock, I guess.
Yeah.
Jen had a good question. Did he and your mom have any place in Swan Bay area that meant something to them, or just him?
I mean, well, again, the entire Land Between the Lakes area we camped at. When I say camped, like 2 weeks every summer, every weekend when it was pretty, every other weekend if I wasn't there, things like that. But we typically didn't go to the Swan Bay area. We went to different areas. So, like, I know Boswell Landing was somewhere we went all the time, and that was an area that was searched.
Now, do you know if he, or does anybody know if he had owned any land that maybe she didn't know about?
As far as I know, no, he only owned the property at his house, Briar Patch Lake Road.
So earlier you had made a comment I think the comment about the bulldozer. So did he do excavation work?
Yes. It was
Okay.
kind of a newer thing that he'd gotten into in the last year or two, I would say, as far as getting the bulldozer and doing excavation work as well. But I believe, I don't remember the job site that his bulldozer was at, but it was the opposite direction, 30 minutes to an hour away, I would say. And I know that area was searched by police. But I really do not know much about that in particular.
Okay. I'm sure you've answered all this stuff a billion times at some point in your life. So I apologize for these questions that if some of them are just like, oh, I got to answer this again or something like that. So I do apologize.
No worries. It's all part of it. And it never hurts to go over it more than once because someone may have a question or something may come up that we didn't think about before.
Mhm.
Right. That's right.
Absolutely.
Where am I reading? That one, Joanne's.
Yeah.
Okay. Joanne had a comment here. When she came to me at work the day prior to going missing, she was very fearful of how he was going to react when she told him she was done. That's got to be heartbreaking.
Yeah, I know Joanne and my mom were very close friends. So, she definitely confided a lot of stuff in her and things like that. So, and I know prior to that, I think it was kind of a long time coming, so to speak, for her to get the courage and means to leave. Because I know she'd been talking with some of my other family members as far as kind of staging it like she had to drive for work. So if something were to happen while she's driving at night and doing this or that, what would I want to do? Would certain family members be okay with it? And I know maybe a week or two prior to her going missing, she told her mother, who has told this to me, that she was fearful. She was very scared of what Paul would do to me, to her. But she felt like she had it handled and she didn't want to, I guess, burden anybody else. It can be embarrassing dealing with a situation like that. People, why don't you leave? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Everybody, not saying putting their 2 cents in, but for lack of a better way to put it, everyone chiming in about what you shoulda, coulda, woulda done. I think she felt like she could handle it on her own.
A lot of like women that are abused think they can handle it on their own, and it's just because they're so terrified that they don't want anybody else to know what's going on. Jen had a really good comment here. I really think they should focus on sentimental areas because of the bipolar one can go from enraged to remorseful in a matter of seconds. Taking her life could switch him. Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. As far as sentimental areas, I think me and Paul's family at different times made sure to point out a lot of those to police officers. And, different law enforcement, different search groups, show areas that may have been sentimental to him. As far as like places that were sentimental to us as a family, going to like Boswell Landing and stuff like that, that was more of a campground area. So it may have been, it's more of like your more rugged campground area. It doesn't have, cabins, stuff like that. So, I mean, it's a possibility, but would I say that it would probably be somewhere, maybe if it were somewhere around there, it would be somewhere near there or a more off the beaten path kind of place. Per se, a campground that's not a private campground. Other areas at the lake, I mean, I pointed out any sentimental area I could, but a lot of the places that we really like to go, I also feel like may not have fit into the timeline he had to be in that particular area.
Jen also wants to know, what was Paul's body type? Was he lean, muscular, overweight, etc.?
He was very muscular. You know, he was in the military for many, many, many years. And when he retired from the military, he was a construction worker. You know, he ran his own business, did all kinds of work. We had horses. You know, he was no stranger to outside work, physical labor. So he was a very in shape man.
And then Tamara said, did they search local lakes?
Yes, I think around that there was a lot of rain that may have came after, if I'm not mistaken. So that did hinder some of the searching. And of course, they searched around the Land Between the Lakes area, but that is, again, a very vast area. So I know there was a lot of searching done around the Briar Patch Lakes area as far as bodies of water near where they found his body. And I know they did a few places out at the Land Between the Lakes area, but I would have to go through my records to see exactly where.
Here's an odd question. So Doug's truck, was there any questions to Doug of how much fuel was in it when your mother had evidently picked it up? And was there any, debit card I mean, I'm, in 2008, was your mom a debit card person? Was she a cash person? So my thought is, did anybody ever question how much fuel was in the truck? Possibly the miles that were on it, how possibly far it could have gone, come or go in a certain area? Did they check, credit card statements to see if fuel had been purchased? Anything just like that by chance?
I don't recall as far as any debit card transactions or anything that were done. You know, my mom, her purse and wallet and everything were found with not a substantial amount of cash in it, but a little over $100. So it's possible she could have been using cash. She did use her debit card. I don't know that. But I know they questioned him about mileage because he'd had an oil change done very recently. So they were able to use that to calculate mileage to help narrow down the timeline.
Wow. Jeez. Look at this. Look at all your notes. He's got, 4 pages of notes here. Just, wow.
Yeah.
And not to mention every question I had coming into this.
She's already answered. Yeah.
She answered all my questions I asked you guys about. Now, did they process the truck for her DNA, blood, anything like that?
Yes, they did.
Front and back?
As far as I know, front and back, because I know I talked to Doug. I don't 100% remember when. I believe it was before doing the Discovery show, and he told me it took a very, very long time for him to get the vehicle back. So I do believe everything with that was thoroughly searched. And they may have found like hair or stuff like that, but there was no blood DNA evidence in the truck from what I understand.
So it definitely happened outside the truck. If it was real physical.
Yes.
Did you say Discovery Show or Discovery Channel?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So can you fill me in on that?
I guess it was
What?
a few years ago. I'd wrote into the Discovery show. They were trying to find cases like mine in a certain area, and they hired Still Watch investigators, Renee and Amy. And Renee and Amy kind of went from square one. You know, we got the case file. They interviewed people. They tried to go and re-interview people as well that maybe weren't thought of before, things like that. And then did some searching. As far as, of course, you know, there's dramatization for TV, things like that. But I know they did some searching based on rumors, things like that, as far as using a metal detector in an area that was in concrete. There was an area where I guess a witness had saw the truck parked in a field, from what I understand. And they also searched that area with a sonar detector of some sort, and they did end up finding something in the ground. They dug, they excavated, and then it ended up being like a water pipe situation. So that area was also crossed off the list. And I know Renee and Amy, we also went out to the Swan Bay area back in October and did like some walking around there based on stuff that the psychic had said, just to kind of see, because it was near where the cell phone ping was, as well as the job site. So we did a little bit of walking around there, and I think this gentleman used the divine rods, and nothing was per se found there, but the area has changed quite a bit there as well. So I don't know what would need to per se be done in that area, but that is, I think, what they're trying to get together for later this year.
I'm not sure how big car washes were back then, but would there be a car wash in between around the cell phone ping area?
Not that I can think of. No. I do know that I believe there was DNA as far as blood found on Paul that was of male origin, but not his. And don't quote me on that. I would have to look through, but I do know there was blood found on him that was pertaining to male DNA, not
That's
female.
interesting.
Jen has a question here. Do you know if there were any signs of excessive dirt on him or the vehicle?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Now, he did change his clothes since the time you seen him before he left, right?
Yes.
So he had changed clothes from the time he was with your mother to the time that he was found after he had committed suicide, and there was another man's DNA on the clothes that they found him in, if you think correctly.
I think correctly. I just know it was male DNA. But I don't believe it was his DNA. Again, I don't want to put anything out there that's not 100% facts. I would have to look through all my case notes again, but there was DNA found on him that was of male origin, and I believe that it was not his.
Seeing Tabitha and Joanne both said that they had said that the wallet he had in his pocket was damp.
That's what I've heard, but I, again, do not recall. I just don't recall that. But that does not mean that they weren't told that or that's not the case. I just do not remember.
I'll have to say this is pretty impressive that there's so many people, family members, related to both sides that's on here tonight talking and discussing. So I know it's probably tough for everybody, but we do thank everybody for their information and their willingness to come on here and talk with us and try to get answers. And because in the end, no matter what, it is a loss for everybody, both sides, no matter what. I mean, it's a terrible thing for everybody to go through, but so I do appreciate it, and I'm sure the rest of the group does, that everybody's talking and discussing and bringing stuff out.
And again, there's things that I'm sure that the people that are writing in as far as his family would know more about them finding his body than I would, just due to again, the nature of the situation and me being 13.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I have a kind of another question that would go back to, how he was and how things would go towards your mother, and kind of about the bipolar stuff, and something that Jen had made a comment about basically, if either verbal or physical abuse or altercations or something, and how bipolar can flip back and forth. Did you ever encounter, if something like that was to happen, would he be 5 minutes later, I'm so sorry, it'll never happen again person?
Absolutely. Wasn't always a 5 minute span, but it was every time, if he would be, especially if he was physically abusive to her, which he very much was. And I can't even count on both hands how many times I've personally witnessed him doing something physically abusive to her. And then verbally it goes, of course, even further. So
I'm sorry, you kind of broke up a little bit, but did you say he would be apologetic and I'm so sorry, it'll never happen, or so he would? So hypothetically, if we were to go down the road that something so traumatic would happen that could have been his end result, was him doing what he did to himself because he knew that he had gone too far this time and he couldn't apologize. He couldn't make it right by just at least trying to verbally say, I'm so sorry, it'll never happen again. And if that's possibly where, his situation came into play and what happened and what he did.
I do think that that's the more probable, answer to all of this is he lost control, because in every situation where we left, whether it be we went and stayed in a women's shelter or in like the hideaway houses for battered women, whatever that may be, he would always, I'll never do this again. I'll change. I'll be the man you need me to be. And then it would be great, for weeks, months at a time, but without fail, it would always return to severe abuse.
Now, was there ever alcohol issues with him?
No.
Seeing Jennifer commented to Joanne that she would like to map out everything on a map for you guys. She's done this on other cases and has been incredible with this, where different things have been found, where searches have taken place, and has been incredible.
She's amazing when it comes to this stuff.
Absolutely. Jen is one of the best, if not the best at it. So if you guys find it in your heart to take her up on this opportunity, I would definitely do it. And you guys will be so blessed to have a map with information, the locations, everything that she does. She just does incredible work.
Yes.
Yeah, no, definitely. And if she'd like to reach out to me, I can go and go through, my case file records, things like that, to help a little bit more with narrowing down locations and stuff like that. So that's no problem at all.
And then she said, Joanne, you're more than welcome to get a hold of me on Facebook to get that done, or I could even just teach you guys how to do it depending on the sensitivity level. So she's done.
And I will say, that I can see the comments as far as rainwater, things like that. I know over the years, again, grain of salt to those who believe, cool, to those who don't, whatever the case may be. I know pretty much any psychic that has ever reached out to me has always mentioned body of water. Yep. most people believe that he put her in some kind of body of water, whether it be an old abandoned well or things like that, or the lake or some body of water near his home. It's always been someone saying body of water.
Wow.
That's interesting.
Right.
And Billy's asked, is there a website or something on this case that they can follow?
Yes. So there's the Bring Rachel Home at blogspot.com. That's not updated as much as I would say the Facebook pages, Bring Rachel Home on Facebook. So if you're looking for any kind of updates about the case, the Bring Rachel Home Facebook page would definitely be where all of those are.
Yeah, that's where I got all my information.
Okay. Well, guys, this was amazing tonight. Amber, thank you so much for coming out and talking with us. Wow, I don't even know what to say. So much information.
Yeah, no, thanks again for having me. And if you guys have any questions as far as, what I can get for you as far as the paperwork I have, things like that, I have a lot of it on a jump drive. And I don't mind sharing that with you guys if that would help answer any questions or just give you guys a little bit more insight to the case that maybe I couldn't necessarily provide for you. Again, just being young, things like that. Some of it does fall in the cracks, but I don't mind providing any of that to you guys. So.
Well, thank you, honey. Thank you so much.
And we will use all of this to see if we could determine
Right.
search areas that
Right.
maybe haven't been looked at
Mhm.
or some that may need looked at again, and do what we can to help bring Rachel home.
Right.
Alex,
Yes.
you had that billboard back up on Rachel's case, didn't you?
It runs all the way through tomorrow. So, and it has done excellent. It has. I haven't checked it today because I did go and work today, and I do dirt work myself. So when it's if it's dry, I have to go. So I was out doing work today, and I have not actually had a chance to get on the computer because when we do our shows, I just use my phone. And usually Sunday nights are our Sunday family dinner. So I usually come upstairs to a bedroom to get away from everybody. But I think last night I checked it and it was over 2,000 blips. And it is, I think it's on 6 or 7 different billboards within 100-mile radius of Paris, Tennessee, in any direction.
Wow.
It's been playing. So, anytime, you guys want to keep it running and, stuff like that, Amber or Joanne or, just please reach out to us and let us know. I try to do somebody, new every week. I have had some issues the last month with Blip Billboard here in the Kansas City area. There is 8 digital billboards, and all of a sudden there's 8 digital billboards. One gentleman owns 5, and then the other gentleman, he owns 3. And all of a sudden they do not want to put missing people on their billboards.
What?
Yeah, I have had some pretty heated, nasty arguments with them, with the Blip people over the last week. I tried to have a conference with the billboard owners and the main person at Blip, and the billboard owners won't do it. They won't have a 4-way conference phone call to answer my questions why they're not allowing me to do it no more. Which is pretty devastating because we have quite a few pretty, important cases here in the Kansas City metro area. But luckily in Tennessee, the board owners are pretty lenient about things and they're more than happy to work with us, So, so I'm, I hope people have seen the billboards, but yeah, it's been doing really well. So, but it I think it ends tomorrow at 5 p.m. I think on Monday. So, but anytime, if you guys want to have it up, just let us know, and I will get it going. So I did. It was, and forgive me, I don't remember, but right when you go into Paris, Tennessee, there's a highway, and there's 2 digital billboards, one on the east side of the road and one on the west, or the north and south, going right into town. But last year I had it on there, and it ran for a week, and I think it blipped. Like a blip is when it's up on the billboard, it lasts for 8 seconds, and then it switches to the next. And I think it did like 5,200, 5,300, 5,500 blips when it was up on that time period. So, but it's, I mean, it definitely helps, getting the word out, and, keeping it out there for the public's eye to, like they usually say, there's always somebody that knows something, so, but so yes, just reach out to us, and if you guys want to still keep it going and stuff.
No, definitely. I really appreciate the billboard. That was super awesome, and getting the updates about it was really like, wow, that's just super cool.
You all are so welcome.
And Jennifer asked, do you know if the clothes that he was wearing before he changed was ever recovered?
I believe so, but I'm not 100% sure. I would have to look through all my notes and see if it was the clothes that he was wearing when I last saw him, or just the clothes that he was found in, that were tested and recovered. But I want to say yes, but I'm not 100% sure.
Well, we thank you very much for coming on here tonight, and you are more than welcome to reach out to us at any time, be it case related, if you need to talk, anything. You have another team here that's with you on this, and we'll be doing everything we can to help you bring her home.
Awesome. I really appreciate it, guys, and thank y'all for having me, and I'll definitely reach out after I go through and find this jump drive, so I can just get you guys all the information.
Sounds good.
Well, thank you again, hon, so much for coming on. We
Thanks.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Take care. We love you.
Love y'all too. Have a good night. Thanks again, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
There we go.
What a strong lady.
Yes.
That is no lie. Wow.
Definitely.
She did it amazingly.
It was,
My goodness.
it was incredible, and like I said, I give thanks, props, however you want to say it, even to Paul's family for being on here, and even
Felicia, absolutely.
And
I mean
there was
that
a couple other ones
Yeah.
too.
that's a lot, even on even at that, it's everybody had a loss. Everybody that was ever involved on both sides of their family had a loss, so
Yep.
Both sides want justice.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
they all seem like good people,
Oh, yeah.
and should not have to go through this.
No.
Absolutely.
just an off the wall question here, which did something with StreamYard change? Because I'm not seeing any comments by anybody in the chat or anything at all. Even my screen is different. I've never seen it look like this.
Seeing, if you noticed, our screen's kind of different as well.
It is. Maybe they.
The only
I have to look into that.
Yeah,
and see
maybe
what's
they-
going on.
It kind of looks like they did an update or something, Alex, because even our screen looks a little different.
All I can see is the ones that he highlights. on that
Yeah.
screen.
That's what I was going to say. And earlier, when I clicked on the chat, thinking, well, maybe if I click on it, it will bring up. It shut the whole screen off, and then then I did see the chat, but I didn't see nobody. Like we're all looking at each other. All that disappeared, and all it was text.
Lovely.
Just curious if something had changed.
No, that's
Yeah,
kind of why I
it
keep
did.
my phone next to me watching it on YouTube too.
This is a complete different layout.
Yeah.
Yeah, the background's different.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we had an update and we just didn't know it.
Right.
So,
Wow, guys, that was amazing. God,
Yeah.
that poor thing. My goodness.
yeah. Well, Jen will do her thing, and
Oh yeah.
they will be impressed, and that'll be such an asset to see everything mapped out, from the home locations of where her and her mother was staying to Paul's home to even if she gets like Doug's address where Doug lived and where the truck came from, and where they found Paul at, and where the cell phone pings were, and where his bulldozer, whatever piece of equipment he had, to all these different places that everybody brought up tonight. I mean, that'll be incredible to have, because that'll just put a lot more things into perspective. And then trying to go back and look at these other locations that were brought up by the psychic or other people that have said things. So it'll be.
And Felicia says she would love to be more involved. If there's anything we can do to help you with that, don't hesitate to reach out. We will do everything we can to help. Our team email address and my phone number are both down in the video description, but feel free to reach out anytime.
Thank you all for the family members that came on and supported Amber, and I mean, you guys are awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. It's awesome that both sides of the family are working what appears to be working together, and getting along, and everybody's that's awesome. There's a lot of times that doesn't work out that way.
No.
Too many people butt heads, and too many people take things out on the other the other family members on the other side, and it had nothing to do with them. Besides, they were just related, but it's awesome to see people working together and talking together, and that's absolutely so. Like I said, props, to everybody that was awesome work on everybody's behalf.
Oh yeah.
Now, Felicia, by any chance, do you know if you're able to find out if more than one bullet was shot from that gun?
Jennifer says it good right there. One community, one goal.
Yep.
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 And Jennifer did join us on a previous live feed a while back ago, where she pulled up some of the mapping she's done on one of the other cases. So if you want just an idea of what she's doing with that, you could go back and look at that, or you can find her on Facebook. She's got a page on Facebook.
Yep.
It's just so helpful. And I talk about Jennifer a lot on here, but you can never say enough about Jennifer and what she's done.
Yeah, she's got some skills for sure.
Yeah.
And speaking of Jennifer, next weekend we will not be live. It's Easter Sunday. The weekend after that, that Saturday night at 7 p.m., we're doing a Randy Leach live feed.
Mm-hmm.
It's the 35-year anniversary that Randy went missing.
Right.
And Jennifer will be joining us on that live feed. And,
Oh, we make Jen blush.
and I'm still waiting on confirmation to know for sure, but there may be some others joining us on that live feed as well. Joanne says, Dan, I believe there was just the one gunshot. And Mark, I will be getting a hold of you very soon to talk about a couple of the other cases you and I have talked about in the past. And kind of update you and get your thoughts on a couple things. So guys, again, no live feed next weekend. The weekend after will be the Randy Leach on Saturday night. And we have some searches coming up. Alex put it in, was able to get us permission on a couple cases. Bobby says, well, Dennis, why can't you do a live feed on a Saturday night if you can't do it on Easter Sunday? We probably could, but, you know, we got to spend time with our families too. If we neglect our family time, then, you know, so that weekend, holiday weekend, will be with our family.
Okay. Oh, Felicia just said, I believe just one, and he had placed it into his left eye socket. Hate to say that on here, but it is what it is. And knowing him, I believe it was a sign in itself. Goodness. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you, Felicia. We appreciate it, honey.
Yes.
So guys, I want to thank everybody very much for coming on tonight. The questions you all had and asked, you know, very, very appreciative. The teamwork, again, we can't say enough for the teamwork. It has been incredible. Guys, do you have anything else to add?
Felicia, yes, we did see your comment.
Yes.
Like I said, I had watched that Mike Weatherford show where Amber was on, Paul's brother was on, the past sheriff was on. And it was like an hour and a half long show, and it was a really good show, and I just I was curious as to get Amber's point of view on some of the discussions that they had talked about, and I'm glad we were able to talk about it and get some answers. And also I was curious to how old Amber was when all this took place. It was very informative, and it's a sad, tragic thing what happened.
Yes, it is.
But I'm glad we got to talk about it, and even we have a relationship with Joanne. We're friends with her on Facebook. She's always a part of the Muddy Water Show, and I asked Amber to be friends on Facebook, and I've reached out to her, and it's awesome that like I said, that both in such a tragic situation that we still have both sides of the family talking, looking for answers, after what had happened. So
that is definitely a plus side.
Yes, it definitely is. So, like I said, most times in these situations, there is not that type of, working together, getting along, scenario. So it's definitely a positive thing that everybody gets along and talks and tries to work together to get answers. So
And Bobby also brought this up. Our
Yeah.
thoughts and prayers go
Yes.
out to everybody
Oh.
who's been affected by the tornadoes and the storms the last several days.
Yeah.
And with potential of more storms this coming week, everybody be safe, be careful
Yes.
out there.
Yes. So,
Dan, I saw on Twitter while we were getting ready to sit down for dinner tonight, there's a couple of big fires going on.
Oklahoma City was on fire.
Yeah.
oh, great.
Are the fires still going or?
As of yesterday, they were all 100% contained. They were just hitting hot spots.
Good.
Okay.
Whew.
It was pretty bad.
Wow.
Yeah, I was watching, it was about 6 hours ago, and it looked like they had just shot the videos, but yeah, it was pretty crazy to see so much on fire. So
Yeah, and I was getting nervous because when they said Logan County butts up against Oklahoma County, and where it butts up against is where the search was done for Bruce.
Oh, lovely.
But it wasn't that close, thank goodness.
Oh, good.
oh,
Good.
But it was still in Logan County, but where Luther was is in Oklahoma County, but it's like right on the border. The fires were more towards Oklahoma City.
Right.
wow.
Goodness.
I see Dennis has got another new shirt.
It's an old one.
Yep.
I still like Alex's better.
See, mine beats all of y'all's. See, Kansas City Chiefs.
What'd you spill on your shirt?
Dan, not funny, sir. All right. Wow, that was amazing. I'm glad she came on and did that. So,
Yeah.
So, guys, with that, we will go ahead and get this shut down. Thank you all for joining us tonight. You all stay safe, and we will see you guys down the road.
bye, guys.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.